Ignored friends invite me to parties, I decline. Bella explodes with insults. I block her, realizing Tina's honesty may have betrayed me. OMG. Is my friend authentic? Hello, everyone. I am a 21-year-old female, and I am experiencing some difficulties with a friend, and I want to ensure that I am not overanalyzing the situation, or perhaps making it more significant than it actually is. Bella and Mona are friends with my best friend, Tina. Tina and Bella have been best friends since childhood. I do not have a large circle of friends. I tend to be more of a loner and prefer my own company. However, I do have my best friend Tina, who is much more sociable than I am and has many more acquaintances. In the past, Tina has mentioned me to her other friends, likely to help me connect with more people, but most of those friendships did not thrive because I did not really bond with those individuals. For the past 2 to 3 years, Bella and Mona have been inviting me to parties, intending to be kind and include me. However, when I attend these events, they hardly engage with me, and we do not communicate outside of the parties. Besides attending these gatherings, I rarely interact with them. If I do receive any updates, it is solely through what Tina tells me. Tina has conveyed to me that Bella and Mona want to be my friends, but besides the invitations, they do not make an effort to reach out to me. I am quite an independent person, and I do not feel the need to force relationships. I am comfortable being alone. Therefore, I have only sent Mona a message once or twice, and I have texted Bella just once when she requested my phone number. She then created a group chat including me and Tina. That provides some background information. 2 weeks ago, Bella messaged the group chat with Tina and me, inviting us to a Galentine's party, which I completely forgot about, and I admit that was my mistake. However, 2 weeks later, just 2 days prior to the party, Bella texted the group chat again inquiring if we were going. I also received a private message from Mona asking the same question. As I mentioned before, since I do not see these girls as friends, I chose to ignore their messages. It was not out of spite or rudeness. This is something I have done previously with them and with others. I tend to be a poor responder and can leave messages unanswered for several hours. This was simply one of those instances. I was not intentionally ignoring them to be mean. That is essentially how it appeared to me, and that was the extent of it. Tina texted me to ask if I was attending the party, and I told her I was not going because I do not view these girls as friends. Since I had forgotten about the invitation, I had already made other plans for Friday, and I would prefer to stick with my commitments rather than attending their gathering. Thus, I was not going to the party. This isn't the first time I have opted out of one of their events. There have been several occasions where I chose not to attend because I was uninterested in the activity or due to prior work commitments early the next day. Bella and Mona have never seemed to mind that. Regardless, I shared my honest thoughts with Tina because she is the friend I confide in, and I felt comfortable being open with her. A few minutes later, I received a message from Bella stating, "Hey friend, if you didn't want to attend, you could just say that. There's no need to respond harshly about it. I invited you a month ago and you ignored me, and then today again. Do not complain about no one wanting to be your friend when I consistently try to include you. Tina is not your representative. Use your own voice and say it confidently." I feel she could have approached me in a more respectful way. Instead, she came off as sarcastic. I do not frequently voice complaints about lacking friends. Occasionally, I make jokes about it, but only in Tina's company, and those comments are not meant to be taken seriously. In the past, Tina's friends have said they wish to be my friends, yet they never reach out to me directly. They always turn to Tina to connect with me, which makes little sense to me. If someone wants to be friends with me, wouldn't they contact me directly rather than going through Tina or a group chat? However, I believe Tina became quite tired of this situation, and I understand that it must be exhausting for her to constantly have people approach her about me. I have suggested that if this occurs, she should encourage those people to speak to me directly. While Bella and Mona did reach out to me this time, and I chose to ignore them, I see Tina's perspective. She pointed out that they did make an effort to contact me directly, and I was not fulfilling my part by responding, which is true. Nonetheless, to me, it felt like an ordinary day, and I did not think much of it, hence leaving their messages unread for a period. I do acknowledge my role in this situation. Tina asked if I would be attending. I expressed my honest feelings, and then 20 minutes later, I received that message from Bella. Bella works with children, and the tone of her text felt condescending, as though she was addressing a child. I found this disrespectful, leading me to reply with a sarcastic remark. "Hey girl, you're not going to pop up on my phone and talk to me like one of your preschoolers." Aside from that comment, I thanked them for the invites and mentioned that I would prefer smaller gatherings to parties since large events are not my preference. After this, I will refrain from providing excessive details, but Bella began to insult me, mock me, and misuse personal information against me. I felt this behavior was entirely unwarranted, considering the circumstances. Throughout her tirade, she insisted that I should behave like an adult and be mature. Eventually, I blocked her because I do not need an adult woman in my messages berating me like that. It was disrespectful, and I had not said anything that warranted such a response. This made me wonder what Tina might have said to provoke her reaction. In the past, there have been instances where Tina has breached my trust, and I have picked up on hints that she talks to others about me. This is now the fourth occasion of which I am aware. Tina remarked to Bella, "Yeah, OP doesn't want to go, but I'll join if I get a ride. To be honest, OP doesn't see you as friends like I do, so most of the time she isn't inclined to attend. She probably won't want to go to any future plans either. She's more of a homebody, and she doesn't speak to you all like that." I feel Tina provided unnecessary information. She could have simply stated that I was not going instead of throwing me under the bus and intentionally painting me in a negative light. Following this entire scenario, I spoke with Tina about my feelings. While I accept my responsibility in this situation, I do not believe it would have escalated as it did had Tina withheld the information she did. So that brings me here. It seems that while Tina somewhat grasps my perspective, she does not fully comprehend it. The way she phrases her responses gives me the impression that while she is acknowledging some responsibility, she is not accepting full accountability and continues to emphasize that none of this would have occurred if I had only responded. Yet, none of this would have happened if she had not been so candid with Bella. Tina claimed, "Well, you never told me not to share that," essentially implying that I should have to instruct my best friend not to reveal information to others. Just because I did not explicitly ask her to keep it confidential does not make it acceptable. As I mentioned, this is the fourth time she has talked about me behind my back. I believe the main reason she was so brutally honest with Bella was to deflect the pressure of her friends' inquiries about me. Tina and I have been friends for a very long time, and it complicates the situation to realize that 3 years ago, she moved in with my family. I know I am only addressing one instance, and you are only seeing this from one angle, but we have had numerous discussions and disagreements over our long friendship. I thought we were in a good place until this incident occurred, and now that it has happened, it has made me reconsider my view of her. This is not the first time Tina has acted in a way that makes me question her loyalty and character as a friend. There are certainly positive aspects of our friendship, yet there are negative aspects where she behaves in ways that I would never consider towards my friends, which is bothersome. Therefore, I wanted to seek others' opinions. Am I the one in the wrong? Is she? I do not know. However, I have been contemplating whether I want her to remain my friend and whether she should continue living with me. Story 2. I quit in front of regional managers after Tim lost it on me. He was demoted to assistant, while Larry became the new manager. Many years ago, I began my employment at a fast food establishment. Let us refer to it as Southern State Not Baked Poultry. Southern State Not Baked Poultry was not a bad first job. I was 16, and the assistant manager at that location was my best friend's stepfather, so we turned mundane tasks into enjoyable experiences. He was truly an excellent manager and genuinely cared for the people who worked for him. During our preparation time before the establishment opened, we would engage in playful activities while loud music filled the air from his office. As long as we completed our tasks well, he did not mind if we had fun doing it. We will call him Larry. However, this narrative is not about him. This account focuses on our store manager. We will refer to him as Tim. Tim was the complete antithesis of our assistant manager. Every task had to be approached with utmost seriousness. Fun was strictly prohibited. I genuinely despised working with Tim. He was a self-centered, power-hungry, petty individual who harbored dreams of grandeur simply because he held a managerial position at Southern State, not baked poultry. Tim's management style involved pushing employees until they were utterly exhausted, then dismissing them and hiring replacements. Consequently, morale during Tim's shifts was abysmal. He resented that teams preferred working with Larry rather than him. He loathed the fact that employees enjoyed themselves when Larry was around. He was unhappy that our store consistently performed better when Larry was on duty. Above all, he harbored a deep dislike for everyone. But one particular thing he absolutely detested was a trivial habit of Larry's. If it was before the restaurant opened, he would poke his tongue between his teeth and lower lip, cheerfully exclaiming, "Hi, name," to the employee entering. It sounded completely absurd. I would always respond similarly, resulting in a sound resembling, "Hi, Wowie." A prime example of Tim's unpleasantness occurred when a young woman, overwhelmed by various stressors, attempted to take her life after a particularly brutal shift alongside Tim. Upon her recovery, she returned to collect her final paycheck while Larry was on duty. Not coincidentally, she had called the store to find out when he would be there. Larry took the time to sit with her in the lobby, treating her to lunch and giving her check to her, while talking with her for about an hour. After the lunch rush had subsided, he ensured she was doing well and discussed whatever she wished to share. By the time she departed, she wore a smile, though tears glistened on her cheeks. She had never experienced someone willing to listen and allow her to express everything she was facing. The following day, Tim arrived and summoned Larry to the office. His exact words, and I can recall them verbatim, as the office was a tiny cubicle without a ceiling, merely a space for storing paperwork and a computer, were, "The next time the suicide queen comes in, tell her to do it right next time." Thus, you now have a clear understanding of just how petty and vindictive this individual was. Here is where the retribution begins. We had been informed that regional and national executives from Southern State, not baked poultry, would be visiting our location for an annual review. Tim aspired to become one of those executives, at least in the regional context. Why wouldn't he, when he adhered strictly to the rules? That automatically made him a competent manager in his eyes. Everything followed a checklist, a procedure, and a set of written instructions outlined in the book, and if you failed to meet the criteria established in the book, Tim would scold and belittle you. Because that is how a manager is supposed to manage, you see. Well before the executives arrived at our establishment, we knew the scheduled date of their visit. Several of us resolved that on the day of their visit, we would intentionally perform our tasks poorly enough to provoke Tim's anger. After all, our regional manager and the national executives believed that Southern State Not Baked Poultry was a family company where employees were regarded as valuable team members. The anticipated day arrived, and the executives were present for their tour. Oops, one of the fryers had not had its oil replaced the night before. Oh dear, the shaker table had not been cleaned. Unfortunately, we had prepared an excessive amount of coleslaw that would not be used before it had to be discarded. Oh no, there was insufficient poultry in the cooker to accommodate the lunch rush. Additionally, someone forgot to preheat the second cooker. You get the idea. After I took slightly too long to place a basket of poultry into the cooker for the second time, Tim completely lost his composure. He began yelling, cursing, and throwing objects. He even physically shoved me away from the breading station. This occurred in the midst of the lunch rush, with the regional manager and several national executives observing and a long line of customers waiting at both cash registers. Meanwhile, the lobby was filled with diners. Tim stood there, gasping for air like a fish. His mouth moved as if he were trying to articulate something, yet no sounds emerged. The room fell utterly silent, save for the beeping of a fryer that had completed its cycle. I looked at Tim. This was the moment we had all been preparing for. I glanced down at my chest where he had pushed me, observing sets of handprints imprinted in flour. In that moment, I unleashed my frustration. I yelled at him that I was quitting, removed my apron, and tossed it at him. I expressed my weariness of his mistreatment, his poor management skills, and how he single-handedly drove morale into the ground each time he entered the building. I proclaimed that he was an awful manager, and without Larry and a few competent shift leads, he would have driven the location out of business long ago. Color drained from his face, and he rushed to the office cubicle. the national and regional attendees ended up comping the meals for everyone present in the restaurant. Curiously, Tim was not terminated. He was demoted instead to assistant manager. Larry was subsequently promoted to manager. About a decade later, while employed as an emergency medical technician, I found myself working across the street from that restaurant. After dropping off a patient at the nearby hospital, my partner expressed hunger, prompting us to drive over. I had not entered that establishment since the day I quit. To my surprise, there was Tim himself working the counter, still wearing a name tag that read, Assistant Manager. The restaurant was empty since it was the lull between lunch and dinner, and I could not resist the temptation. I poked my tongue between my teeth and lower lip and shouted as loud as I could, "Hi, Twim." I have not returned since then, but that was about 12 years ago. I would wager he remains just the assistant manager there.